Harlan's hand closed around the gold clasp. He pressed both thumbs against the locking mechanism and twisted. "Don't do that." He looked up. A black woman in a worn wool coat stood on the other side of the desk, hands at her sides, voice entirely level. No panic, no raised pitch. Just a statement of fact delivered with the calm of someone who has said important things in important rooms for a very long time. "Excuse me? That portfolio is sealed. You are not authorized to open it. Put it down." Harlan smiled. The smile of a man who had spent 22 years deciding who belonged in the Meridian Club and who did not. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step back." She didn't move. "I'm telling you one time." Her voice dropped half a measure. Not softer, more precise. "Open that clasp and you cannot undo it. That is not a warning. That is a fact." Harlan looked at the portfolio in his hands. Black leather, initialed in gold thread at the corner, a federal seal stamped into the center of the front flap. He looked at her coat, its fraying hem, her scuffed loafers, the reusable canvas bag on her arm with a grocery receipt sticking out of the top. He looked at none of this consciously, the way a man doesn't consciously reach for the same conclusion he has always reached. He just reached. He opened it. Have you ever watched someone dismantle their entire life in a single motion? Because in 30 seconds, you'll understand exactly how Harlan Coates did it and why she let him. 55 minutes earlier, the Meridian Club occupied the top 3 floors of the Hargrove Tower in downtown Charlotte, North Carolina. Floor 41, the entrance lobby and member services. Floor 42, private dining, the library bar, cigar parlors. Floor 43, 7 private conference suites, each named after a mountain range, each reserved exclusively for members conducting matters of a confidential nature. The Meridian Club was not the kind of place you found by searching. No website, no social media. Membership began at $35,000 annually and required 2 existing member sponsors and a background review conducted by the club's private committee. Established in 1963, the club had, in 61 years of operation, accumulated a membership of 312 individuals. 309 were white, 2 were Asian American. 1 was a naturalized citizen originally from Brazil. None were black. This was not written anywhere. No policy stated it. No rule prohibited it. It was simply the outcome of 6 decades of the committee finding, year after year, that no black applicant met the precise combination of qualifications required. Qualifications that seemed to shift slightly, always just slightly, with each new application. A senior partner at a law firm declined insufficient community ties. A cardiologist with hospital privileges at 3 Charlotte institutions declined membership quota concerns. A retired federal prosecutor with 40 years of public service declined. The committee had reservations about high-profile members. 11 years of applications, 11 years of quiet, documented, systematic refusal. One woman had kept a record of all of it. Dorothy Winn was 63 years old. She had worked as a housekeeper at the Meridian Club for 19 years, moving through its carpeted hallways with a cart of white linens and a practiced invisibility. She had watched membership directors come and go. She had watched the committee meet behind closed doors on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. She had watched applications arrive in cream-colored folders and leave, weeks later, in the form of polite letters declining to offer further consideration at this time. She had also for 11 years been keeping notes, dates, names, quotes overheard outside partially closed doors. A membership director's offhand remark to a colleague, if they're going to apply, they need to understand the culture of the room. A committee meeting summary that listed an applicant's qualifications and then, in handwritten margin notes, the word optics circled 3 times. Dorothy had not filed a complaint right away. She was a 63-year-old black woman who cleaned rooms for a private club in Charlotte, North Carolina. She understood exactly how much weight her word would carry against the word of the committee. So she waited. She waited until she had enough that no one could dismiss it with a shrug. 2 years ago, on a Tuesday afternoon in January, she called the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division tip line. By Thursday, the case had been assigned. Rochelle Ames was 47 years old. She had been appointed to the United States Court of Appeals for the 4th Circuit 9 years ago. the first black woman to hold the position in the circuit's history. She drove a 2015 Honda Accord with a passenger side window that didn't roll all the way down. She got her coffee at the same diner 3 mornings a week, always ordered the same thing, always tipped the same amount. She wore suits in court and wore whatever was clean outside of it. On this particular Tuesday morning, whatever was clean was a charcoal wool coat she had owned since 2019, with a hem that had come loose on the left side and never been repaired, a pair of dark trousers, a cream blouse, and the loafers she preferred for long days on her feet. She carried a reusable canvas bag from a grocery store near her apartment. Inside, a water bottle, a brief she had already read twice, and a wax paper bag with half a blueberry muffin she hadn't finished at the diner. The portfolio was in her other hand. Black leather, her initials in gold at the corner, the seal of the United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit centered on the front flap, and a locking clasp that required a specific key. She had the key. It was on a chain around her neck, under her blouse, next to the small gold medal her father had given her when she passed the bar 30 years ago. Inside the portfolio, the complete case file for a civil rights proceeding against the Meridian Club of Charlotte, 22 months of documented evidence, photographs, membership application records obtained by federal subpoena, internal committee meeting minutes, Dorothy Winn's 11 years of notes, sworn, notarized, and sealed by court order, a consent decree already negotiated with the club's parent company's legal team, pending final hearing and signature, and the presiding judge's own written opinion, completed 3 weeks ago, sitting at the back of that portfolio like a stone at the bottom of a pool, waiting to land. Rochelle was the presiding judge. She was also early. She had come early on purpose, as she often did when a case involved an institution's culture. She wanted to see the lobby. She wanted to ride the elevator without a federal escort. She wanted to see how the 41st floor received a woman who looked like her before anyone in the room knew who she was. She got her answer faster than she expected. Harlan Coates had held the title of Senior Member Services Director at the Meridian Club for 11 of his 22 years there. He was 51, heavy-set, silver hair cut close, a club pin on his lapel that he polished every morning before his shift. He knew the name of every current member and most of their spouses. He ran the front floor the way a man runs a system he has spent his entire career becoming irreplaceable to. He also knew, without ever saying it, which people walked off the elevator belonging and which people walked off the elevator lost. He watched the doors open at 9:14 a.m. He watched a black woman in a worn coat step out, glance once at the room, and move toward the member services desk with the unhurried certainty of someone who knows exactly where they're going. His jaw tightened before he registered why. He stepped out from behind the desk. "Good morning. Can I help you find something?" "Good morning." Rochelle set the portfolio on the desk between them. "I have a 9:30 in the Appalachian suite. I'm a few minutes early." Harlan's eyes moved to the portfolio, then back to her coat. "Do you have a membership card?" "I'm not a member. I'm a guest." "Guests need to be logged by the hosting member. What's the member's name?" "The suite is reserved under a federal case number. You should have it in your system." Harlan's expression didn't shift, but something in his posture did, a small pulling back like a door closing an inch. "We don't take external reservations. All suite bookings are made by members." "Sir." Rochelle's voice was patient, precisely patient, in the way that patience is different from softness. "This suite was reserved through your club's parent company legal team 6 weeks ago. I'd suggest you check your system before we continue this conversation." He typed into the terminal. He stared at the screen for a moment longer than necessary. He had found the reservation, the federal case number, the notation from the parent company's legal office. He had found it, and he had decided, in the space of 2 seconds, that it didn't change anything about what he was looking at. "There may be some confusion," he said. "Our suites are for member use. I'm not sure who you spoke with, but I need you to call your general manager." Harlan straightened. "I am the senior floor director. I handle." "Your general manager, please." Neil Satter had been the general manager of the Meridian Club for 8 years. He was 44, lean, with the pleasant, frictionless manner of a man who has spent his career managing the feelings of the wealthy. He arrived at the front desk in under 3 minutes, summoned by Harlan's text. Black woman claiming federal reservation. Doesn't look right. Your call. Neil read the situation the way Harlan had read it. The coat, the canvas bag, the loafers, the portfolio that seemed too serious for the woman holding it. Good morning, ma'am. How can I assist you? You can confirm my reservation and show me to the Appalachian suite. Neil glanced at Harlan. Harlan gave the smallest shake of his head. I'm afraid there may be some administrative confusion. Our suites require member authorization and we don't have a record. You do have a record. Rochelle's voice hadn't risen. It hadn't needed to. It's in your system. Your parent company's legal team confirmed it in writing on March 4th. Neil laced his fingers together on the desk. Perhaps you could tell us what's inside the portfolio, just to help us understand the nature of the booking. No. Ma'am, that portfolio is sealed federal material. I've already told your director not to touch it. I'm telling you the same. Neil looked at the portfolio on the desk. He looked at Harlan. Some silent conversation passed between them, the kind that doesn't need words because it has been having itself for years. Bo Latimer was 26, 8 months into the job, still in the phase where he deferred to whoever spoke with the most authority in the room. He appeared from the side corridor in his security blazer and stood next to Rochelle. Ma'am, if you'll step over here. I'm not moving. Rochelle didn't look at Bo. She kept her eyes on Harlan. I have a 9:30 appointment in this building. I will be at that appointment. What happens between now and then is entirely up to the two of you. Harlan reached across the desk and picked up the portfolio. Sir, Bo started. Don't, Rochelle's voice, directly at Harlan. Flat, certain, final. That is sealed material from a federal proceeding. You are not authorized to open it. If you break that clasp, you cannot undo it. I am telling you one time. Harlan held the portfolio up, turning it in the light. The gold seal caught the overhead fixtures. The federal insignia was clear, stamped deep into the leather. He ran his thumb along the clasp. He looked at Rochelle standing across the desk. Her coat, her canvas bag, her absolute stillness. He looked at the woman who had told him no twice now and was standing on the other side of his desk, like she had nowhere else she needed to be. You know how many people come in here with fake credentials? He said it for the room, the way people narrate their own certainty when it's already beginning to slip. Government seals, official-looking packets. We've seen it all. He looked at Neil. Neil nodded once. Rochelle said nothing. She had already said everything she intended to say. She had been in rooms for 29 years where whatever she said next would be used against her. She had learned a long time ago that silence, in the right moment, is not the absence of power. It is the proof of it. Harlan pressed both thumbs into the clasp. The mechanism gave. The portfolio fell open. Pages slid out across the desk. He picked up the first one, a photograph of a membership application file, stamped decklinged, with handwritten margin notes in the white space beside the applicant's qualifications. He picked up the second, another file, another stamp. He flipped through 5 more, same pattern, 11 years of it, each one indexed and ordered. He set them down and picked up the next item, a bound document, cover page facing up, bold header running across the top. In the United States Court of Appeals for the 4th Circuit. He read the case name. He read it again. His eyes moved to a line near the bottom of the cover page. Presiding, the Honorable Rochelle A. Ames, Circuit Court Judge, United States Court of Appeals, 4th Circuit. The portfolio slipped from his hands. He caught it on the edge of the desk. He looked up, then past Rochelle toward the elevator. The doors were opening. 3 individuals in dark suits stepped out. U.S. Marshals, badges visible on their belts. Behind them, a man in his 60s in a charcoal suit, gray-haired, deliberate in his step, with the bearing of someone who has spent 5 decades doing exactly what he intended and nothing he didn't. Senior Circuit Justice Emmett Braddock stopped at the edge of the lobby. He looked at Rochelle. He looked at the papers spread across the desk. He looked at Harlan's hands. His voice, when it came, filled the room with the weight of a man who did not raise it and did not need to. Judge Ames. He crossed the lobby toward her, Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Justice Braddock." She glanced at the desk. "We appear to have a situation." Braddock looked at the open portfolio, at the documents across the desk, at the gold federal seal lying on the floor where Harlan had let it fall. He looked at Harlan Coates with the expression of a man who has seen 1,000 mistakes before they finish forming and already knows how they end. One of the marshals stepped forward. "Sir, that portfolio contains sealed federal court documents under a court protection order. Opening it without authorization is a felony under 18 U.S.C. Section 401. He paused. "Please step away from the desk." Harlan's mouth opened. Both hands gripped the edge of the desk like a man who is no longer sure the floor is solid. "I didn't. She wasn't. There was no way to know." "She told you." Braddock's voice was quiet, the quietness of a fact. "She told you 3 times. Bo Latimer took one step backward. His face had gone the color of the marble floor. His body camera, standard issue for club security under the parent company's updated policy, had been recording since he clipped it on at the start of his shift. The small red indicator light blinked steadily at his chest. It had captured everything: the desk, the portfolio, the clasp, Harlan's thumbs on the mechanism, Neil Satter's knot. Neil, who was now standing very still at the edge of the room, his pleasant expression replaced by something that had no name except the look of a man watching the door close from the inside. A second marshal walked toward him. "Sir, we need to speak with you about the club's security camera system. Specifically, whether any footage has been accessed or deleted in the past 40 minutes. Neil's mouth opened, closed. "I haven't done anything. The parent company's legal team granted us live access to this building's camera servers at 8 this morning. The marshal held up a tablet. "If any footage has been modified, we'll know exactly when and from which terminal." Neil had accessed the camera terminal at 9:16 a.m., 2 minutes after Bo's text had reached Harlan, which had reached Neil. He had opened the file directory with the intention of pulling the lobby feed. He had not yet done it, hadn't found the moment, but his credentials were time-stamped in the system, and the system had sent an alert to the federal server at 9:17 a.m. He had tried to protect the club. What he had done was hand the prosecution a second count. The hearing in the Appalachian Suite began at 10:05 a.m. Rochelle presided. She had declined the offer of a break. She had declined, with equal courtesy, the offer of tea, a private moment to compose herself, and the interim manager's formal apology on behalf of the club. What she had accepted was a glass of water and 5 minutes to sit quietly in the suite and let the morning settle into its proper place. She thought about Dorothy Winn, who was testifying that afternoon in the room 2 floors above the lobby, where a man had pressed both thumbs into a federal seal because a woman in a worn coat had no business, in his assessment, belonging to anything that mattered. She thought about the 11 years of files in that portfolio, the careful, patient accumulation of a woman who had cleaned rooms and kept notes and waited until she had enough that no one could dismiss it with a shrug. She thought about what it costs a person to carry something that heavy, that long, alone. At 10:05, she called the room to order. The proceedings lasted 3 days. Harlan Coates was charged with tampering with sealed federal court documents under 18 U.S.C. Section 1519, obstruction of a federal proceeding, and civil rights interference. His attorney argued that his client had no way of knowing the nature of the portfolio, that the situation had been genuinely confusing, that any reasonable person in his position would have made the same assessment. The judge assigned to the criminal matter was the Honorable Walter Fenn, 67 years old, from Greensboro, with a reputation for patience with defense attorneys and none whatsoever for waste of the court's time. He listened to the defense's argument. He let the attorney finish. Then he picked up the body camera transcript from his bench and read a single line into the record. "That portfolio is sealed material from a federal proceeding. You are not authorized to open it. If you break that clasp, you cannot undo it. I am telling you one time." He set the transcript down. "Counselor," he said, "your client was told. I am not interested in what he knew or didn't know about the nature of the portfolio. I am interested in what he was told." She told him plainly. He opened it anyway. Judge Fenn folded his hands. "That is not confusion. That is a choice." Bo Latimer testified for the prosecution. He described the sequence of events from the moment he arrived at the desk. He described Neil Satter's nod. He described the sound of the clasp mechanism releasing. He described the specific quality of the silence that followed when Harlan read the cover page. The way Harlan's hands had stopped moving, the way a clock stops when the battery goes out. Bo had submitted his resignation from the Meridian Club 2 days after the incident. He found a position with a private security firm whose clients did not require him to restrain women in federal positions for the crime of arriving in a coat with a loose hem. Dorothy Winn testified on the second day. She sat in the witness box in a blue suit she had bought for the occasion, hands steady on the railing. She told the court that she had kept records because she believed, in the way some people believe in facts before anyone else has caught up to them, that one day someone would want to read them. She described 11 years of observations, the committee meetings, the margin notes, the conversations overheard outside partially open doors, and written down on her break in the stairwell, because the stairwell was the one place in the Meridian Club where nobody was watching. She described the Tuesday afternoon she called the tip line. The fear in the days that followed, wondering whether anything would happen, whether the complaint would go into the same quiet drawer where everything always went. But somebody answered, she said. Somebody on the other end picked up, and then somebody showed up. She paused, and the room was completely still, and I thought maybe this is what it looks like when it actually works. Harlan Coates was found guilty on all counts, 18 months in federal custody, permanent bar from employment in any federally regulated hospitality facility, 22 years at the Meridian Club, the lapel pin, the recognition, the unshakable certainty about who belonged and who didn't, gone. Neil Satter was convicted separately on obstruction charges, a suspended sentence, 2 years of probation, less than the prosecution had sought, and more than he had believed possible for a man who, as his own attorney put it, had merely opened a file directory. He had merely opened a file directory, the same way Harlan had merely opened a clasp. The Meridian Club's parent company entered into a consent decree with the Department of Justice, independent oversight of the membership committee, for 5 years, mandatory restructuring of the application process under federal supervision. 3 black applicants whose files Dorothy Winn had documented by hand in a stairwell were extended personal invitations to reapply under the new process. 2 of them accepted. 6 months after the verdict, Rochelle drove to Charlotte on a Wednesday morning. She parked in the building's garage, took the elevator to the 41st floor, and walked into the lobby. New carpeting, navy blue where the old gray had been. A new staff member at the front desk. A young woman who looked up and said good morning the way you say it when you mean it, without measuring the person in front of you first. Rochelle walked to the window at the far end of the lobby. The Charlotte skyline spread below, pale under morning cloud cover, the city doing what cities do, continuing regardless. She thought about the weight of the portfolio in her hand 6 months ago, the specific temperature of Harlan's gaze when he looked at her coat and decided what she was. The sound of the clasp releasing, that small mechanical click that had, in an instant, become the loudest thing she'd heard in years. She had spent 29 years walking into rooms where people decided, immediately, before she spoke, what she could not be. She had learned to carry what she was, without announcing it, because the distance between what people assumed and what was true was always the space where their choices lived, the space where they showed you, clearly, without any possibility of excuse, exactly who they were. Harlan had shown her, freely, deliberately. In front of a camera, in front of witnesses, in front of a senior circuit justice he didn't know was standing 1 floor above him. He had handed her, in one motion, everything a 22-month investigation had been building toward. She had not needed to say anything beyond "I am telling you" one time. Rochelle turned from the window. She straightened her coat, a new one, clean hemlines, and walked back to the elevator. She had an 11 o'clock in Greensboro. She did not want to be late. Have you ever walked into a room and felt someone decide who you are before you finished a single sentence? Not because of anything you said or did, just because of something they made up the moment they saw you. Drop it in the comments. And if this story stayed with you, hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Velvet Reckoning, because the truth has a way of coming out, and we'll be here for every moment of it.